Slowhands Rock Talk Show.
In a band looking to rehearse or get some high quality recording done, look no further. Paul's Hall Studios is located in Cumbernauld, Scotland. They offer a top-end recording studio, 5 rehearsal rooms and over 2 decades of experience. Click the link in the description for more info. Before the video starts, if you could do me a huge favour and make sure that you have subscribed to the channel. It's free, it only takes seconds to do, and it really does help the channel continue to grow. Now on to the video. So Allan, thank you so much for making a bit of time out of your evening to come onto the podcast and to speak to myself all about music. As I just said there, we will talk about music for yourself. We'll talk about the band and everything else that fits in between. Before we get started, how are you doing? No technical difficulties whatsoever?
None whatsoever. It was smooth and
sailing.
Professional.
Of course. What I do, Allan, I go with all the guests, I go back to the very beginning. So where originally are you from?
I'm in Midlothian, so just outside Edinburgh.
Is that where you were brought up?
I was brought up in Midlothian, and I did move into Edinburgh for a wee while. But it's, what is it they say in The Godfather? Just when you think you're out, they keep pulling you back in.
That's it. Question for you. Were you exposed to music from a very young age? And if so, where did that come from? Was that parents or siblings?
Very much so. So I'm part of a really big family. I've got 4 brothers, 4 sisters, and my father was a semi-pro and then fully pro musician. He was an accordion player.
Right. Okay.
And my mum used to like to sing and stuff like that. And all the girls are musical. They used to sing and they dabble in bits of keyboards and that sort of thing. But they're massive music fans. So they were always listening to like ABBA and T-Rex and that sort of thing when I was growing up. The boys are all actually musicians, like actual proper musicians. They can all read and write music and play really proficiently, whereas I can barely master a few chords.
Hey, Johnny Cash did pretty good with 4 or 5 chords.
He did all right. Apparently Mark Bolan only ever knew 7 chords.
That's probably about 3 more than me.
Well, that's all you need is 3.
That's it. But I always think that's great. Like my parents were born in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
so when they were kind of late teens, early 20s, when my dad especially was really into his music, and all these bands he was listening to, they're just classic bands now. The Who, the Doors, Rolling Stones, Creedence Clearwater. I mean, the list goes on, and they are classic bands. And it's fascinating to me because these bands are like 50 years old, but they sound just as good today as they did back then.
They definitely do, and it's things like, as you say, like the Who and that sort of thing, the Small Faces. It's nothing's ever going to beat guitar, bass, and drums really for rock music. Yeah,
I mean they're timeless, and I even had someone on the podcast that was really into their pop music, but it was pop music of the early 80s. And the point that they made to me was pop music back then is not what pop music is today. Pop music was still bands. It was still bands creating popular music.
Yes.
It wasn't about so much like you look the part, that's pretty much all you need. It was still a proper band thing, but I sometimes get jealous because my parents, the bands that they just grew up on, they are classic bands. I always kind of wonder, will that be me? Like when my kids are older, I don't know. I'm sort of 80s and 90s, but there was still a lot of good music coming out then.
Yeah. But I think though that, as well as it like being like a sort of classic time, it was also really, it was like early because there hadn't been anything like that before. Before that, there was maybe Elvis Presley and Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, and then suddenly you get all these predominantly English groups playing American rock and roll.
Yeah, and it's funny though because the American bands are then influenced by the British bands.
Aye,
but as you were saying though, it kind of started in the 50s. The 60s obviously had, there was bands creating sounds, music that had never been heard before. Yes. Some of them have never been heard since as well. But the 70s, you had your disco, you had punk, it had a different glam rock. It was still there was still new music sounds being created. You could argue, but I would say the 80s was the same.
Aye.
And you could even say there was new stuff coming out in the 90s. I don't know if it's my age. I kind of feel like when it hit 2000, plenty of great music still being created thereafter. I don't know if there was anything new coming out, because I kind of feel like it got to a point where it had all been done and it was starting to kind of go in circles.
I think you're right there. When you say in the 90s, I always feel like the Britpop thing was a return to sort of almost like your 60s, 70s classic rock thing with real drum kits and guitars and basses, whereas the 80s people were sampling a lot and using drum machines and that sort of thing. Yeah,
and the Britpop stuff, I think that was probably the last big musical movement. You know,
yes.
I wasn't a huge fan of it myself, but there's no denying for a good 3 or 4 years there in the middle of the 90s, it made an impact.
Yes, and the other side of the 90s was all the rock stuff with Nine Inch Nails, Dinosaur Jr.
And you had the grunge stuff at the start.
Absolutely. But then a lot of the bands were influenced by classic rock, Zeppelin and things like that as well, Black Sabbath.
Yeah, it's maybe just one of those things that just goes in circles.
It probably does, but also technology can drive change as well, because you did start to get, maybe later than that, bands like Limp Bizkit and that having like DJs in the band and things like that.
Yeah, there's like Limp Bizkit, and it sounds silly now, but there wasn't really bands like them out before them.
That's right.
They did kind of create a new kind of sound, but then it's so popular nowadays that you kind of forget that there wasn't anything like that before.
Aye, and rock singers like rapping and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Aye.
But obviously, you're saying you're getting musical influences from parents, siblings. For yourself, though, who were some of the bands that you started to discover for yourself? Something that was different from what your parents were listening to. Who were the bands you discovered?
So the first bands that I really got into were, again, the 80s, which was what we're talking about, the Jam and the Police, and bands that were really built on their songwriting. Paul Weller was a great writer, Sting was a great writer, and like the musicianship in the Police, they were really spoiled having those three guys.
I know, I feel a bit sorry how it ended, because they were such a force.
Definitely, and they were probably the biggest band on the planet when they did split.
Yeah.
But after that, I kind of went back the way, and I really got into the Beatles, and then I got into Led Zeppelin and some prog rock, and then latterly some sort of even jazz rock fusion, like the Mahavishnu Orchestra and that sort of thing. Yeah. But what I really settled on was sort of like what kind of power pop, sort of like bands like Squeeze and XTC. I don't know if you remember an American band called Jellyfish from the 90s.
I remember the name. I couldn't tell you any of their songs though.
They were like brilliant. They made 2 perfect albums and then broke up.
Yeah. Well, I was listening. You sent me over a couple of tracks.
Aye.
And I was listening to them, and it's funny though, because I was listening to them, and I'm thinking, who does this sound like? I always kind of try and think of people's influences. See, to me, it sounded a lot like not early Pearl Jam. See, the later stuff that they done.
Right. Aye.
Post 2000, like classic rock kind of sounding.
Right, aye, interesting.
But I actually said to my girlfriend about an hour ago, I played her the couple of tracks and said, who's this sound like? She thought it sounded like Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds.
Right.
But again, that's another kind of classic rock kind of sound. I know I think you described it as guitar-driven power pop.
Kind of.
But I suppose it is kind of like that. It just sounded like some good rock, but with some really good melody.
I hope so. I think the first one, Little by Little's got a pretty strong melody in it. The second one, If and Only If, which came out just yesterday, is really built around a guitar riff. Yeah. Somebody was saying to me the day that it reminded him of sort of Beatles-influenced, Beatles-era Revolver with the guitar sound and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't remind me of Metallica's Black Album, but it reminded me in the sense that a lot of those songs are just built around one good guitar riff.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
was the same sort of idea. But I was going to ask, because unfortunately, like myself, we're both of the older generation.
Yeah.
What was can you cast your mind back, what was the first album or single that you ever bought with your own money?
Again, though, kind of looking back the way, the first single I think was The House of the Rising Sun by The Animals,
Right.
which was re-released in the mid-80s, but it was a big hit in the 60s. And I'm really a keyboard player first and foremost, but I play guitar as well. And that song, that record is dominated by an organ.
It's brilliant.
It really is, and Eric Burdon's vocal on it's incredible. The first album I bought, I think, was Led Zeppelin 1.
Right, okay.
For $3.49.
Yeah, prices have changed a little bit nowadays.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But I was going to ask, similar to that, what was the first professional concert you ever attended?
Wow, right. Well, the first one was Level 42, believe it or not. Just when they were about to become sort of successful, I went to see Level 42. I've actually seen them twice.
Where was that?
That was Edinburgh Playhouse.
Right, okay.
And obviously they're a sort of high-end musical band because they can all play really well. But around just after that, I actually saw Metallica on their Master of Puppets tour as they were just breaking out, and they were supported by Anthrax, believe it or not.
So was that with Cliff Burton in the back?
I think it was, and they had a stand-in guitarist because
John Marshall.
Aye, because the guy had broken his arm. James Hetfield had broken his arm, I think.
I think that's happened a few times until he got banned from skateboarding.
Right, aye.
Clearly, he's a good vocalist, good guitarist. He's clearly not very good on skateboards because he can't guitar him.
Keep him off the skateboards, please.
That sounds pretty cool. But I do say to people as well, I've not found a way of saying it without it sounding very dramatic, but everybody should go and see a live concert.
Yeah.
Because music isn't for everybody, but there is something magical about going to a concert. And regardless of who it is, if it's a band that you like, you go into the arena, or if it's a smaller venue, it sounds silly, not just hearing it, but feeling the sound, feeling it hit you. And I mean, I don't know how many concerts now have I been to. It'll be probably 100 plus.
Yeah.
I still, this is the exact same feeling I get now in my 40s that I got when I was a teenager 30 years ago. That's
great. It's great if you never lose that as well. But it is kind of exciting, when you're just, you can sense that the band are about to come on the stage. And
as I say, you might have, everybody's got problems, they've got issues in the outside world, whether it be family, work or that. But for that hour and a half, 2 hours that you're in that gig, there's something lovely about just being, everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
Everybody's the same. They're one with the band. And it just makes you forget your troubles, if only for a couple of hours.
It is. It's brilliant. It's magical. And even sometimes it can be quite moving. I've seen people crying at concerts.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. I'm a music fan. I love music. I do find it odd when I come across someone who they've got no interest in music, like it's just background noise to them. I mean, everybody's different, but I just think it's such a magical thing, that I find it strange when not everybody feels the same about it. But
I once remember speaking to a girl, and just as a part of the conversation, what kind of music do you like? She said, I don't really like music. And what?
It blows my mind, but it is what it is. But obviously, you said that you played keyboard was your main instrument.
Yes.
Guitar. I know you do vocals as well. I'm assuming keyboard was your first instrument.
Probably my main instrument is keyboards. I always dabbled in guitar and as a sort of songwriting tool as well. But latterly, I did start to play guitar live as well.
Did singing come later for yourself?
Yes. Thanks for calling it singing. It's loosely singing.
How do you feel about that? Because a lot of people, find singing tough because you can learn to play any instrument, especially nowadays. You've got YouTube, you can go and get a million lessons on your favourite song, but nobody can teach you confidence. And I always feel half of singing is confidence and half is ability.
Yeah, 100%.
How did you get into singing?
So, I mean, some of the best vocalists aren't great singers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they can put a song over. I got into it, I always relied on other people singing like my songs when we were in bands that were doing original material. Eventually, you must know Stephen Wilson from Porcupine Tree.
No.
Yeah, all right. So he's they were a sort of kind of modern prog rock band, and
right.
he's got a solo career now. But he's at the front and he sings. But he always says, he's not the greatest singer in the world. But if it's his songs, he feels it's important that he's delivering them. Yeah. And he's probably he's onto something, But then, having said that, you've got the opposite with somebody like the Who. Pete Townshend's quite a good singer. Roger Daltrey's an exceptionally good singer.
Yeah, but the Who's always a funny one because a lot of bands have got a front man.
Yeah.
I read somewhere just recently the Who are the only band in history that had 4 frontmen.
Aye, yeah, and what's really funny about that is that John Entwistle's all over the place. Keith Moon's all over the place. The guy who's keeping it steady is the rhythm guitar.
It's weird because that band especially, it shouldn't work, but it does.
It's awesome. It just, as you say, there's no logic to it.
No, you just sit back and you just enjoy it, and you just try and figure out as a musician how the hell did they do that? Yeah,
I mean it's inexplicable. Just you think the track Won't Get Fooled Again.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable, and Keith Moon's playing to a click track on that. I don't know how is he doing that.
I don't know, but he's got the headphones sellotaped to his head.
That's right. Aye. What a guy.
Hey, it's Lauren from Deer Fang, and you're watching the Slowhands Rock Talk Show, talking all things music.
Just a very quick message to say thank you for watching. It really is appreciated. If you could hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and remember to hit the notification bell. That way you won't miss any future episodes that come out. Now back to the video. I know, but obviously the Kettle Zone, is it a solo band or is it an actual band? Is it a solo?
It's me, and it's kind of a vehicle for the songs that I've been writing, and but I've been working with other people. So like last night, Derek Smith was here recording some bass. He played on Little by Little. And Richie Werner has played drums on 2 of the singles, and Andrew Scott has played drums on another of the singles. Drums is pretty much, I can't. I'd love to be able to play drums, but I can't do it.
So how did you come across those guys?
Richie owns a studio in Edinburgh, and I knew he was a great engineer, but I latterly discovered he's a really good drummer as well.
Right.
Andrew was recommended to me by a friend, but the great thing about them as well is because they have access to studios, they can do a proper master for me as well. Yeah.
So are you writing demoing the songs, and are you giving it to them? Are you wanting them to copy what you're doing? Are you happy for them to put their parts to it to make it better? How does the actual recording part of it go?
So I probably record maybe 80% of it here,
right? With
vocals, maybe a guide bass, a programmed drum track, keyboards and guitars, and so I'll get that pretty much to where I want it. Or sometimes Derek will come here and record some bass, and then I'll send the files over to either Richie or Andrew, and then there's not every drummer can play to a click. It's a skill, but they're really good at it, and they can groove with it as well. Yeah. And then once they'll send me a couple of takes of what they've done, and then it's a negotiation. They'll use my guide track as a rough guide to what to play, but I'm happy for them to put a bit their own self into it as well, if possible.
Yeah. What is your songwriting process like? How do you if you're going to sit down and write a song, do you come up with the lyrics first? Do you come up with a guitar riff? Do you add the lyrics last? Like, do you have a preferred way to write a song?
There really isn't. It can happen any old way, but for little by little, just these chord shapes came into my hands, and then that triggered the melody. That came just really quickly. Well, most of it did. It took me a long time to get the second part of it, but the main melody just came just like that. The same with the new single, which is called If and Only If. Yeah, that came from a word. I just came across this word. When you spell the word if with two F's, three letters, it means if and only if, and it's used in logic and mathematics. And that triggered the melody, and then that triggered the chords. And then it just so happened that I had that guitar riff that was the same key and the same tempo. So I thought, I'm just going to stick them together.
What about your lyrics? Because there's some people will write a song, and if you read the lyrics, you know exactly what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Whereas there's other people like to write something that's a little bit more vague. If 10 people listen to it, 10 people take 10 different things away from it.
Yeah.
When you start writing songs, do you feel like you're going into one rather than the other?
I think the best way to do it is if you can hear something in your head, kind of chase that, whether it's a lyric or a melody, and try and find words that fit the melody. But the best thing is for it all to come at once. But more often than not, I have to look at the lyric afterwards and work out what it means.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can write something as well, and if you're playing that song 5 years later, you could be singing the same words, but the meaning of it could have changed as well.
Definitely, and I think that, as you said earlier, listeners will attach their own meaning to the songs through their own memories and experiences.
I remember I don't know if it was a documentary, something about Oasis, talking about Noel Gallagher, because he was talking especially about the first two Oasis albums, that the songs just came to him. He said he wished that it was that easy to just write songs like that. He says, I don't know what it was about the right time, right place. He says that these songs were just appearing. And, he's saying there's songs that are like classics, and people are saying to him, what does that? What do those lyrics mean? And he was saying, I've no idea what the song's about. He wrote the song. I've no
100%.
idea what it's about, but he says, I don't need to know what it's about, because when I sing that song and the crowd sing it back to me, it means something to each individual person in that crowd. He says it's almost like the song doesn't belong to him anymore. Yeah,
I mean whatever people may think about, like Oasis, for example, they definitely touched a nerve. Well, they reached a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they made a connection with an awful lot of people. But, I remember Keith Richards saying that the songs are there. Yeah. You just have to reach out and pull them in. Yeah. He was from the 60s, of course, so people used to talk like that.
Yeah, like, I think Jim Morrison from the Doors as well. People would ask him what his songs mean, and he said he didn't like to explain because he wanted people to make up their own minds. Now I don't know. Maybe there was a wee bit of drinking drugs involved. Maybe he didn't know himself what they were actually about. But
I said that I sometimes listen to a lot of prog, and like John Anderson from Yes. I'm not sure he knows what he's talking about. Never mind anybody else.
Yeah. Who's some of your favourite songwriters, like lyricists?
So Lennon McCartney, Ray Davies from the Kinks.
Yep.
Difford and Tilbrook from Squeeze. Andy Partridge and Colin Moulding from XTC. Pete Townsend's written some belters. Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
I mean, the list could go on. There's just, you almost get jealous that there's some people that they're just born with it. They're so talented.
Definitely. I mean, Ray Davies, for him to write something like Waterloo Sunset, where does a song like that come from?
Oh no, it's just mental. But obviously, you write and record. Is this band gigging at the moment, or is that something that's down the line?
It might be down the line. At the moment, there's no plans to play live with this band. I do play live with other bands. There's a band I'm in called Kyoshi Station, which is a sort of a poppy prog rock sort of band, and the main writer in that is Dave Clark.
Yeah.
And it's Gary on bass and Stevie on drums, and they're really good players, and definitely be playing live with Kyoshi Station. And we're halfway through an album with them,
right?
And I play with a few other people as well, covers and that sort of thing, classic rock. As far as live gigs for the Kettle Zone, like I say, no plans at the moment, but you never know.
Having done both, see for the rest of your days, if you could only write and record or only perform live, which one would you pick?
For me, it would be recording. I just find that more enjoyable. And I was saying one of my favourite bands is XTC, and they came off the road in 1982 and just recorded after that, and they got better and better. The Beatles, of course, finished playing live in 1966, and they got better and better at making records. I think Steely Dan did the same. But I mean, having said that, something like the Rolling Stones, they're very much a live band.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar to yourself. I do a lot of recording here. Mm-hmm. I think if I had, as much as performing live can be fun, there's something that it would drive me mad if I had a song in my head that I wasn't allowed to record. Like I love the idea of recording something for all of time. You know, yes. Whether it's just for myself or if somebody else enjoys it, you know, even better. But it's I do like the recording, but I like the whole, if you're doing an album, for example, 10 songs, you've got to give thought to the order of the songs, the way that they kind of lead into the next one. And, you know, if it's old school, you've got to like the artwork as well is important, and the whole package thing. I feel like that's kind of dying a little bit because of the time that we live in. But to me, it's still important.
Definitely. I mean, I think we come from the age where like the albums were what it was all about, and you knew that when you were putting an album on, that's where your head would be for the next 45 minutes. Yeah. Whereas people these days tend to listen to playlists, and it'll be almost like a mixtape, different various artists.
Yeah, but I think you find that the people don't even listen to songs start to finish now. It's like they listen to the first 30 seconds and then they skip to the next one, they skip to the next one.
Yeah.
It drives me up the wall, but at the same time, there is something nice about, you know, when I was a teenager, the only music you had available to yourself was your own collection and maybe friends. You know, nowadays you've got access to unlimited music from around the world. There's something pretty cool about that as well.
There is, because it would have been great in the old days to have had access to something like YouTube, just so you could check bands out. Because not everything good got played on the radio. But as you say, it kind of has a downside as well, because
double-edged sword.
When you've been to the record shop and bought Led Zeppelin 1 for $3.49, and you take it home on the bus and you read the notes and all that sort of thing, it becomes special to you, I think. Yeah,
I think you studied those albums back then, because you maybe only had, if you were lucky, 8 or 9 albums. You know, so you didn't have this unlimited choice. But what do you think about technology today as well? We spoke about this a wee bit earlier. All those great bands from the 60s and 70s, the recording gear, it was so unbelievably primitive compared to nowadays. Nowadays you can do absolutely anything that you want. Mm-hmm. But you listen to those old bands and they sound just as good today. And if you put it against a click track, it probably wouldn't be 100% accurate, but there is character there that sometimes can be missing from today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in the recording processes and how they've evolved through 2-track, 4-track, 8-track, 16-track, and then now you've got unlimited tracks and that sort of thing, and people using click tracks. But I mean, somebody like Glyn Johns, who produced Led Zeppelin and The Who and the Rolling Stones and the Small Faces and that sort of thing, the very mention of the word click track, he won't have anything to do with it. And for him, it's all about 4 or 5 people all playing the song at the same time.
Yeah, I always remember it was John Densmore from The Doors recording LA Woman, and all they just mic'd everything up in the rehearsal room, hit record. I think they had Elvis Presley's bass player.
That's right.
And they had another rhythm guitarist. So there was probably like 6 of them in the room. and it was, the song starts at a tempo, in the middle it dips right down, and then the drummer was saying I had to build it up and try and get the same tempo at the end.
Aye. And that must be...
And he says I'm about a millisecond out. Nobody would notice, but he done a pretty damn good job.
And that's like 8 or 9 minutes long or something. And so it takes you on a journey, and when you get to the other end, it's really rewarding, But that, again, that's the magic of music. And
it's funny as well, though, like recording nowadays, you've got plugins to recreate the sounds of years ago.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing as well, because people can get their hands on the stems from these old recordings.
Yeah.
And you'll get some recording engineers that'll use modern technology to put Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney perfectly in time with each other. And it just sounds horrible. Just doesn't sound right at all.
Yeah. But obviously, a couple of singles are out for the Kettle Zone. Plans for 2026, is it just to keep releasing singles at this stage?
Yes. That is it, pretty much, just because, as I say, we come from the age of albums, but these days people don't tend to... If I was to present an album of 12 songs to people, I very much doubt that they would sit down for an hour and listen to it. So if I present a song, 1 3-minute song at a time, they're more likely to listen. Yeah,
or a lot of bands have started doing EPs.
Yes.
There's maybe only like half an album worth. And it's also easier to record it, to focus on those 5 songs, get them sounding good. But a lot of bands that I've spoke to, similar to yourself, they'll do maybe like 5 or 6 singles across the year, working maybe towards an album, but they're keeping interest by doing the singles.
Yes, that, like I say, with that band Kyoshi Station.
Yep.
So there's probably between half and 3/4 of an album nearly finished. Some of the tracks are finished, and a couple of them have come out as singles, just so that people can be reminded that we're still actually active. But the plan is that it'll come out as a full album at some point.
It sounds like you're going to be a busy man, Alan, so at it. But before we finish up, I like to ask some fun questions. So I'll ask the questions, you tell me what pops into your head.
Oh dear.
Okay. So imagine you could go back in time, anywhere in the world. What is the one concert that you wish you could have attended?
I never... That was anything, any XTC concert, any Talk concert.
Yep.
Led Zeppelin at the O2.
No, that's fine. Yeah. We just spoke about it there. Do you have a favourite album cover?
Album cover? 25 O'Clock by the Dukes of Stratosphere. It's just a psychedelic mess.
And it sounds brilliant.
Yes.
Does the perfect album for you exist start to finish? And if so, what is the album or albums?
I think there are very few albums that are 10 out of 10. Highway to Hell is very close.
Yeah.
There's 2 albums by Talk, Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stock by Talk. Part of the appeal of Zeppelin albums is that they're sprawling and, just not every track works, but that's why it's engaging, I think.
There is albums out there. It's different for every person. As you know, thousands and thousands of great songs written and recorded across the years by different artists. What's the one song you wish you could have sat in the recording studio to witness the band record the song?
Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles, because they did use some technology. They used a lot of tape loops. They were one of the first bands to do that, and it sounds incredible. So to have been there to see that would have been something else.
And last question for yourself. The answer could probably change daily, but for today, who is your Mount Rushmore when it comes to bands? Who is the 4 bands for yourself that you just love?
The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, XTC, Talk.
Excellent. Well, Alan, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, talking to myself. I do look forward to any new tunes that are coming out. I always encourage people to, this day and age, if it's streaming, downloading, check it out. Obviously, I know you're on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the channel, watch the videos. If you're on social media, give yourself a follow. Obviously, for your other band, check them out. Go along to a gig if you guys are gigging. Support the local music scene as well. But I look forward to the new music coming out, and keep in touch. And obviously, if you are going to gig at some point down the line with the Kettle Zone, give me a shout. I'll come along and support you as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ian.
Cheers, my man. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Thank you.